Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Esteban Baez. I'm one of the nurses over on 4B, the Medical Intensive Care Unit, and today I'm going to be going over the Richmond Agitation Sedation Scale. So what exactly is Rass? Rass stands for the Richmond Agitation Sedation Scale, and it was developed by a multidisciplinary team at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia. A unique feature of Rass is that it uses the duration of eye contact following verbal stimulation as a principal means of titrating sedation. It takes less than 20 seconds to perform with minimal training. Rass scores are vital for helping clinicians titrate sedatives, but is not only used for these purposes. It also has a secondary component which is helpful in assessing levels of agitation. One important thing to remember is that Rass is not limited to only patients receiving sedatives. It is an important assessment tool for all of our patients here in the medical center. The Richmond Agitation Sedation Scale, or Rass, is divided up into two different sections. The first section is the positive section, which is agitated, and that goes from +1 to +4. 0 is in the middle with your patient being alert and calm, and the bottom section is the sedation section, going down from -1 to -5. That is further divided up into two different sections depending on your patient's responsiveness. First, to voice, second, to touch or pain. Now, how do we do the procedure of Rass? So first step is observe your patient. If your patient is alert and calm, they get a score of 0. Now, if your patient is a little bit restless, this is the patient that is a little bit anxious. They're pulling at their sheets. They're looking around constantly. They get a +1. Next one is a patient that is having frequent non-purposeful movement. So they might be moving up and down in bed, or they might be having dysynchrony with the vent. They get an agitated score of +2. Next is your very agitated patient that is pulling at lines, tubes, or is becoming aggressive with staff. They get a +3. And the final is your combative patient, which is overtly violent and is becoming a danger to staff and themselves. They get a +4. So if your patient doesn't fit into these categories, they will fall into the sedative category, and April will go ahead and describe those.
Hello, my name is April Sanders. I'm one of the 4B Medical ICU nurses, and I will be continuing the discussion on Rass. Starting with Step 2. Step 2 is where your patient responds to voice only. This is further divided into 3 categories. The first category is a -1, where your patient is drowsy but able to maintain eye contact for more than 10 seconds. The next would be -2, which the patient is lightly sedated and able to maintain eye contact but for less than 10 seconds. So this will be your patient that you come in the morning and you arouse, they look at you briefly and then doze right back off. The next would be -3, which the patient is moderately sedated and is able to respond to voice but has no eye contact. So you may say good morning and get a little response of a shoulder shrug or a leg movement, but they do not look at you. This is usually our target in the ICU. Next we have Step 3, which is where your patient responds to pain or is non-responsive. This is further divided into 2 categories. The first category is -4, where your patient is deeply sedated and reacts to physical stimulation only. So voice stimulation does not work on this patient. This patient requires actual touch or painful stimuli. This will be your patient that requires a trapezius squeeze or some other type of painful stimuli. -5 is where the patient is not responsive or completely unarousable to voice or physical stimulation. This patient is considered, according to ICU Liberation, to be in a coma. Now I would like to discuss the documentation required for Rass score, which you will find in ORCID just above IV drips. It is important to remember you need to document every 2 hours if your patient is receiving continuous sedation, such as fentanyl, morphine, Precedex, propofol, or midazolam, also known as Versed. You need to document Q4 hours if your patient is receiving intermittent sedation. This would be your patient receiving any analgesics, benzos, and or any antipsychotics, medications such as morphine, Dilaudid, Ativan, or Haldol. It is also important to remember to document any justification within 30 minutes of giving any bolus or titration of medication. One final note, as previously mentioned by Esteban, it is important that we document Rass score on all of our patients here in the medical center, not just your patients that are receiving sedation. Now that we've had an opportunity To learn a little more about Rass score, let's look at some scenarios and see if you can identify the Rass score that goes with each scenario. Good morning, Mr. Tapia. Mr. Tapia. Mr. Tapia. Wake up, Mr. Tapia. Good morning, Mr. Tapia. Mr. Tapia. Good morning, Mr. Tapia. Mr. Tapia? Good morning, Mr. Tapia. Look at me. Good morning, Mr. Tapia. Hi, good morning. I'm April. I'm going to be your nurse today. Good morning, Mr. Tapia. Mr. Tapia? Hi, good morning. I'm April. I'm going to be your nurse today, okay? Are you having any pain right now? Good. Okay. Good morning, Mr. Tapia.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, I'm April. I'm going to be your nurse this morning, okay?
Okay, thank you.
How are you feeling today?
I'm doing okay, thank you.
Are you having any pain?
No, not right now, but when is breakfast coming?
Breakfast. Good morning, Mr. Tapia.
Hey.
Hi, I'm April. I'm going to be your nurse today.
Thanks.
How are you feeling? Good morning, Mr. Tapia. I'm
Hey.
April. I'm going to be your nurse today.
Can you give me some scissors?
No, actually I can't. Are you okay?
No, I need to get out of here. I need to go to work.
Are you having any pain?
No, I need to go to work.
Good morning, Mr. Tapia.
Hey.
I'm April. I'm your nurse. No,
That's
Mr. Tapia. No. Mr. Tapia, no.
You're going to need another one of those.
What's going on?
Dang, gotta get out of here. Gotta get
Mr. Tapia, hey.
What? Help me out of here.
Hi, I'm April. I'm your nurse today.
gotta
okay?
get me-
No, Mr. Tapia, no. Someone